Hello everyone, welcome to Move Well, Live Well. We've been getting a number of people coming in here with issues regarding their squat, and they're having a problem with it. And this is another video in our squat problems series. And the squat is a very, it's a simple movement, but if you break it down into all its components, it can be very, very complex. That's why we keep adding more and more videos to the squat. It's a great exercise, a total body exercise that emphasizes a lot with the lower extremity. But if you have problems with your upper extremity, your torso and your upper extremity, you're gonna have big problems with your squat. In particular, what we're seeing with these folks with their squat issue is their torso. And what I'm meaning by that, they're either falling forward or they're falling backward. They're just lacking that strength in the torso in helping them stay upright in the squat. And if you haven't seen our other videos, we got another couple videos with our squat problem series, falling forwards and falling backwards in the squat, and some tips that you can do to help with that particular issue. Go to those videos as well. It's in our squat playlist videos. In particular, what's going on with these folks, they're having problems staying upright in the squat. So what I'm meaning by this, as they go to squat, so they're here, and then as they squat, they come down, and they can't maintain, you can see my torso here in the video, it's pretty upright. So if I'm gonna load, if I'm gonna put a weight back here, that is gonna be a much better position to keep that weight there versus here or even falling backwards. So how do you keep that upright torso in the squat? Well, what we're finding with these folks and their inability to maintain that upright torso is they're lacking strength in the hip flexors. So again, the hip flexors, the psoas, the iliacus, those muscles allow for hip flexion or torso flexion as well. If you look at the anatomy of the iliopsoas and the iliacus, those are big hip flexors. Even the rectus femoris, which is one of the quad muscles that allow for hip flexion and torso flexion. So again, if you're squatting and if these guys are weak, you're not going to be able to maintain an upright torso because you either want to fall backward, or if these guys are weak, you compensate by leaning forward because of the weakness here. So you either fall back or you fall forward. So how do you strengthen those? Unfortunately, what happens is as we get to, if you look at a toddler, those formative years, when they go to an object that's on the floor that they want, you watch them squat, and it's a beautiful squat that they have. It's almost an innate, natural movement that's ingrained in our primal brain, if you will, our primal nervous system to be able to squat. What happens at about age 4 and 5, what do? We send our kids to school. And so what do? They sit in chairs 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, and we just sit. So what happens to these hip flexors? We lose, they become weak and they become tight. So, we got to stretch them. And if you haven't seen, so go ahead and see those videos that we have to how to stretch or mobilize those hip flexor, that hip flexor complex. But I'm here in just a second here. I'm just going to show you a couple of things that you can do to help strengthen those hip flexors / trunk flexors. So that way it'll aid in you being able to keep this upright torso as you squat, instead of leaning forward due to weakness or falling backward due to weakness. So here in just a second, I'm going to show you a couple things that you can do to increase strength in your hip flexors / torso flexors. And we're back. So like we were just saying in the previous portion of this video, how do we keep or maintain that upright torso while we sit down in that squat? So that way we can, obviously, the big thing would be to be able to add load, for instance, like in a barbell squat or even in a front squat. So that way we're not falling backwards or falling forwards. How do we maintain that strength here in the torso and the hip flexors? So what we're seeing in a lot of things, a lot of people are doing crunches to increase the strength of their abdominals. And they're doing crunches in this particular fashion, which is fine because you're working the rectus abdominis. And they're doing crunches in this fashion where they're in here and they're doing crunches. And this is how they're doing crunches. And that's all good said and done for the rectus abdominis. However, it does really not a whole lot of strength training for trunk flexion or hip flexion. So how do we modify our crunches or abdominal work to add that trunk flexion and or that hip flexion to increase the strength in those hip flexors? So instead of doing your traditional crunches, you're going to do a traditional sit up. So legs are going to be one. I'm going to do it this way first, and then you can kind of see. I usually tell folks to kind of keep the hips open like this, or you can have your legs straight like this. Since your squat is with your legs out, I usually have folks kind of semi in a position of the squat. So in this fashion right here. So I'm going to go sideways here so you can kind of see. And so now I'm in hip flexion already, and now I'm going to do my sit-ups in this fashion right here. Just like that. Just like that. Just like that. All the way down, and then all the way up. Just like that. All the way down, and all the way up. Now, to start out, you might not be able to do it without somebody holding your feet or holding your legs. So you can put your feet under, obviously, like a barbell or something like that. You can have a super friend or a partner hold your feet down. And as you get better and better, you get to a point where you can do this exercise. As these get stronger, the hip flexors get stronger, you can come up without having somebody hold your legs or your feet. And as you get stronger and stronger, you can do things where you start to add weight. So you can add, this is a 4-pound med ball, yoga ball if you will. And you can add a little weight to your torso and then doing them in this fashion as you get stronger and stronger. And then you continually add more and more weight. So I would suggest you add these exercises to your repertoire of ab exercises that you're doing. So that way you can strengthen the hip flexors to allow when you go into a squat, now you can maintain an upright torso in the squat and you're not falling backwards and do that weakness, or you're not falling forward in that particular bottom position of the squat. Another exercise you can do, that's the first one. So another exercise that you can do is leg lifts. So here you are. You can do leg lifts. So what you're doing, you're on your back like this, and instead of bringing your trunk forward, you're going to bring your legs up, just like that. Now, at first, you might not be able to do this without arching your back in extreme position. Be very, very careful when you're doing this because a lot of people can injure their low back going into hyperextension when you're doing these particular exercises, when you're talking about leg lifts. So you want to make sure you're drawing in, you're making sure that core. If you haven't seen our weak core muscle video, check that out with the low back in the low back series. to help stabilize that before you do these exercises. So same thing here. You're going to draw in, tighten up that core, if you will, core, and then you're doing the leg lifts here. And as you get better and better, you can add a little bit of weight, like ankle weights, to your legs as you do that. So, and then another variation of that would be to combine both of them. So remember, the hip flexors do truncal flexion, right? And then they also do hip flexion. So how do you add those two together? Well, you can do what we call V-ups. And you're bringing your torso and your legs together at the same time. So here you are. You're here. Get a good position here so you can kind of see. Right? Yeah, there. And you're here. And you're coming up together in the V-up. Coming up together. Just like that. Okay? So, I would suggest starting with the first one I did, working through a full sit-up. If you can't do the full sit-up without someone holding your legs down, you can use the bottom of a couch, you can use a barbell, you can use a workout partner to help hold your legs down until you get that strength to be able to bring your trunk all the way up off the ground without assistance. And then you'll find that your squat, your ability to stay upright in the squat will drastically improve. So those 3 exercises, the coming up with your trunk, the leg lifts, bringing the legs all the way up, or doing the V-ups, which is the final one, you can add to your repertoire of exercises in your abdominal workout. So that way you can increase hip flexion strength to aid in keeping you upright in the squat. If you have any questions with the video, please feel free to drop them off in the comment section below. We thank you for watching. We appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up. It lets us know you care and you like our videos. And please share with other people so that way they get benefit from the video as well. And also, don't forget to subscribe. And when you hit subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notifications button so that way you don't miss any videos coming here in the near future. Again, we thank you for watching and we appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.